Good evening, everyone. I'll call this Board of Aldermen meeting to order. If you please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, can I have a roll call, please?
Alderman Bowman.
Present.
Alderman Bachman. Alderman Reese.
Present.
Alderman Milner.
Present.
Alderman Dickerson.
Here.
Alderman Long. Absent. Alderman Turner.
Here.
Alderman Leeson.
Here.
Mayor Hassel.
Here, and we do have a quorum. Good evening, everyone. We have no ceremonial matters tonight, so I'll move right into the public participation. Anybody who has anything to bring before this board that is not on our already scheduled agenda, please feel free to step forward. Seeing no one, I will close the public participation and move on to the approval of the minutes. Tonight you have the minutes from the Board of Aldermen regular meeting on January 21st, 2019.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Alderman Leeson and a second from Alderman Dickerson for approval. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Moving on to our agenda items. First, we have an appointment to the Planning and Zoning Board. Mr. Butler was actually on our Board of Zoning Adjustments. Not sure how his term somehow expired and we appointed somebody in his place, but he had a vacancy that's we've been trying to get filled on that Planning and Zoning Board for a while, so he said he would be willing to fill that vacancy since he did not have an obligation on BZA, so that's who we have. He would fill the term from Murad Hassan, who has moved on.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion from Alderman Dickerson and a second from Alderman Leeson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, appointment approved. Council Bill 007.
Council Bill 007, a resolution of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Harrisonville, Missouri, to authorize the city administrator to execute a purchase agreement for one 2019 Ford F-150 four-wheel drive regular cab from Makins Ford, Columbia, Missouri, in an amount of $24,226.00 and establishing effective date.
So you have a report from Chris Arthur in the building department. This was a budgeted item for $24,000. We've had SUVs. We decided to look at getting a truck in case there was some. It's a vehicle that we use here for City Hall, and we have had a need for a truck at times. Instead of borrowing one from Rodney, we'd have one in-house. So looking at the trucks, the four-wheel drive. They want to keep the vehicles with four-wheel drive. Whenever you get out on job sites, there's a potential of getting stuck, especially some of the rough job sites. The total charge for what he is looking at is $24,226, so you're $226 over the budget amount, but they can take that money out of vehicle repair because getting a new vehicle should not eliminate, but it'll cut back on the amount of vehicle repairs that we'll need to do this year. Our recommendation is to accept that vehicle, and we'll get it for the building department. That will do us up for City Hall and the building department in getting new vehicles.
What do we, I know we had I think it was a Trailblazer that was getting dated or high mileage. Is that the one this is replacing?
Yeah, that's what this replaces.
Are we selling that or are we
Usually we sell
repurposing?
unless we find some other use, but it's not trustworthy on the road. So we're kind of, if we find something local to do, but most of the vehicles we've been selling off. And
So that would also cover part of that.
Yep.
226. So. Okay.
Do we need to vote to change the amount, or was he within his budgeted amount?
No, he's 226 over what was budgeted just for that vehicle, but we do have money from another
Okay.
line item that we can pull out of.
I think since it's in the resolution, it's covered. Is that correct, Mr. Fairfield? We wouldn't have to have a.
Well, it's certainly approved in there. It probably wouldn't be a bad idea to say that you're allowing the budget to go over $226.
Okay, that could be done in the motion, or would it be a?
I think you just do a separate motion. Just someone make a motion
To allow the increase.
to allow the increase and then vote to approve the ordinance or the resolution as stated.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the increase.
Okay.
126, whatever it is.
I have a motion from Alderman Milner and a second from Alderman Reese to approve the increase of $226 over the budget amount. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so now we are ready, unless anybody has any other questions.
I would just say that it's a de minimis amount, so I don't think we need to treat it as an ordinance for this day, but in the cleanup of your budget, generally you do a cleanup somewhere through the year, it ought to be indicated in that and approved again at that time.
I usually do a budget amendment, usually about 6 months in.
Only if the funds are over. So the budget is adopted by fund, so you can move monies within the line items at the discretion within that $15,000 purchasing limit. So as long as general fund, because community development is paid out of general fund, does not go over budget, then you will not see a budget amendment for general fund just to move line item monies.
Then,
Okay.
and my comments are necessary.
All right, very good.
Next time I'll just ask you.
Very good. All right.
Really good then.
Well, if there's no further questions, now that we've had that, I would entertain a motion to approve Council Bill 007.
I make a motion to approve Council Bill 007.
Second.
I have a motion from Alderman Dickerson and a second from Alderman Turner for approval. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And Council Bill 007 will become Resolution 004, R004. Council Bill 008.
Council Bill 008, a resolution of the Board of Aldermen authorizing the city administrator to enter into an agreement with Do Right Construction LLC for the I-49 water main replacement project and establishing an effective date.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. This is a project we've had on our books for about the last 3 years. I will tell you, originally it started out on a budget of $150,000. Somewhere between last year and this year, I had the budget changed to 110. You'll look at the numbers, you'll see that I should have left it at 150, which is what I'm asking for permission for. There is plenty of room within this fund. So what we'll end up doing is we'll take this overage out of our miscellaneous water line projects. Then the 6-month period, we'll probably look at doing a budget amendment to add that money back in. We had really good turnout. We had 8 different companies bid on this. And the bottom 3 companies were all real close together. We've never done work with Do Right, but we have checked in with them and they seem to have a good reputation.
Why are we wanting to do this water line?
This will be one, because the only other water line we have running across 71 Highway is currently not cased. If that water line would happen to break, we're gonna lose water to the other side of the highway.
So this will, what?
This will give us
Be
a
able to
second
span.
line, but it'll be a line that's also encased, so that if it does break, we can pull it out and slide another one in.
So no loss of water for a long period.
Correct.
Okay.
And where is the company based?
Lincoln,
Lincoln, Missouri.
Missouri.
Don't we fire suppression for ADS too?
Yes.
Yeah, this is all part of
So,
that.
I mean, if we just lose water, then they would be without.
Right now.
So,
Or our largest single water user is on that side of the highway.
So this is a second line.
This is a second line.
Okay, so now we have 2.
Mhm.
All right.
So,
I make a motion to approve Council Bill 008.
Second.
I have a motion from Alderman Dickerson and a second from Alderman Levison for approval. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And Council Bill 008 will become Resolution R005. Council Bill 006 is ready for second reading. However, before Mr. Fairfield reads it, Mr. Welch, you were looking at, this is the one that we discussed needed to mirror state statute. We did confirm that this was one of those that we need to be following state statute since we are a 4th-class city.
Right, and we sent out the information after the last meeting, so everybody had a chance to look at what state statute was, what our ordinance is and what it should be.
And essentially what I found on this is is anything related to qualifications goes to, I believe, the Ethics Commission, and then they will look to see if some make a determination whether somebody meets qualifications, and they're looking at state statute. They're not looking at city, down to the city ordinance level for any given city. I guess a charter city might be able to differentiate itself, but as far as a fourth-class city goes.
I think the way the state statute reads is that if there's a disqualification question, it should go to the Department of Revenue.
There you go. Okay. All right. Received no questions on this, unless there's a spelling error or something other than that. This is one of those items that needs to be passed so we can mirror state statutes. So,
Make a motion that
I
we.
have, before you start, I have a couple questions. What do we, and I guess, and having read through that is what kind of made me question this. I always thought, and I assumed, in the past, did our city clerk not verify, when we sign the affidavit for disclosure, didn't Kim always verify
Yes.
that
It did.
everybody's, what they signed was actually true?
But they changed the law.
But we don't now.
No, because they changed, the state
Right.
changed.
it was
the law.
required. It was required that whatever the language was, is it required that the clerk would check, and I believe it was property tax,
Real estate.
personal property and real estate tax, because that's the only thing you have public access to validate. And then obviously you could look at the recorder of deeds to see if there's any liens placed against the individual.
So I understand that the state has changed that, but as a city, do we not want to not follow just a little bit of protocol or process to make sure and
This-
at least do our due diligence to confirm that, there are no outstanding taxes, people have lived in, how do we validify that someone has lived
Okay.
in our community for a
Okay,
year?
for
Just out of curiosity.
my understanding, because when I signed up before, is they look to see, they look at your address, and they look at a aerial view, yes, that falls within the city limits. If it's a alderman candidate, is that address within that given ward? And then when I ran before, they actually took a picture of my residence and labeled where it was located, and that went in a file. To my knowledge, I believe we still validate that they're at the address. I mean, obviously they have to have been there lived in the city limits for at least 1 year.
But how do we verify that? That's my question.
County does all that. The election commission of the county verifies that.
They do verify it for us?
Yeah, and then they call us if there's any problem.
Okay, I mean, I'm
No,
just
that-
curious, because I did not know the
No,
answer to that question.
that's the way it was. And
So-
that's when Kim turned that over to them, after a year and a half, that's who verified. They just call her back, say, yeah, everything's okay, and then.
So we don't have to ask them to verify, they
No,
do
we
it
can't.
on
They
their own?
actually, they have to look, we take our applications, and as long as all the information is received, like the voter registration card, driver's license, that then goes to the county clerk. The county clerk has to do their validation before they send it on to the state to have it added to, because it'll be added to the official ballots. So it then goes to them, and if they find something that disqualifies, they will then kick it back to the city, so.
I guess, but I
It's
guess
just
my
different now.
question still is,
But
how
you're right,
do we
it
know
used-
somebody who lived here a
It
year?
used to work like that.
Does
but
it
they
have to
changed
go off
that.
their personal property taxes?
Yeah.
If they filed for
Well, yeah, if you
how
would,
many
if,
years?
you could look at when you bought your home. I mean, if you own your home,
Let's say you rent.
You don't have any, you might not have it, well, you'd have, if you have a car,
Yeah,
you'd have a car.
they would look at where your domicile was located.
so for this year, if we were looking back,
They look
it
last
wouldn't
year.
just list your 2018, it would also list your 2017 personal property taxes, correct?
Just like whatever you take to the DMV,
Okay,
the way I understand it. But it's all up to the county to do all that,
Okay.
'cause we don't,
okay.
I know. of.
I just didn't know that as a city, if we needed to ask questions or
And then as far as the
validate things. on our
the
own.
requirements, those requirements also reflect state statute. Any fourth-class city you go run is going to say you need to live in the city limits for at least 1 year, be a resident of the ward in which you enlist if you're running for alderman. Certain age, obviously they're gonna validate your age, you have to be a certain age to be an alderman, certain
Right,
age to be a
18.
mayor. So they're gonna validate all those things.
They can't do the age.
No, they have to validate the age. You have to
You
have,
have to.
Oh.
yeah, you have to be a certain age. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
That's right.
So, okay. All right.
Are we done? I make a motion that we.
Oh, actually, it's second reading, so
Second reading.
he just,
No, no.
once the
I
second
haven't
reading,
done the second reading.
once the second reading, we'll have the roll call.
Okay.
That's why I held him up from the second reading. So, okay.
Second reading, Council Bill 006, an ordinance to amend Chapter 105, Elections, Section 105.035A and C, and Chapter 110, Mayor and Board of Aldermen, Section 110.020, by repealing said sections and enacting in lieu thereof new Section 105.035A and C and Section 110.020 of the Harrisonville Municipal Code of Ordinances and establishing an effective date.
Okay, I will need a roll call, please.
Alderman Dickerson.
Aye.
Alderman Levison.
Aye.
Alderman Reese.
Aye.
Alderman Long is absent. Alderman Bowman.
Aye.
Alderman Milner.
Aye.
Alderman Turner.
Aye.
And Alderman Bockelman.
All right, and Council Bill 006 will become ordinance 3458. Council Bill 009.
Council Bill 009, a resolution authorizing the city administrator to execute a license agreement with Cass County to utilize property for an emergency tree limb collection from residential trees that fell during the January snowstorm and establishing an effective date.
So we've been working on this for a little while. We don't have an area that we can collect and do what we need to properly with the amount of limbs that we're going to be inundated with because of the storms. So we have, I believe this happened in 2002. We used some property from the county across from the community center. It's large enough that we can have people dump their limbs, that we can dig a pit, and we can burn the limbs properly with an air curtain and dispose of it according to the Department of Natural Resources requirements. So we have now come to the agreement. We've gotten a lot of messages on Facebook and Twitter saying, what are we going to do? When are we going to do it? Well, it took us a little while to get this agreement together. That's why we've come to the board to get approval so that we can work with the county on this. The county will, if they have something of them for themselves that they've collected, but we're not collecting for the county residents. It's just the city residents. And then if the county wants to drop stuff off that they've collected from their offices, their buildings, then they can drop that off as well. We've agreed to do that.
Which it's been, anybody who's been out, I actually cut up a limb Saturday. It's still very soggy, so it's so once we have this in place, we'll then be establishing some drop-off times and dates, correct?
We'll be looking at, it's gonna be weather dependent a lot,
Obviously.
so, but yes, we will be looking at dates.
Mhm.
And we want to have somebody out there to collect it. We don't want to just leave it open because people will drop off anything and everything.
Mhm.
Who's been picking them up? Somebody took all mine away already.
So if we cut it,
Somebody needed wood.
yeah, it could be that. If we cut it ourselves, we have been picking some of it up that we could get into the truck and do the mulching. But there's a chunk out there that has not been collected.
Yeah. You got some big logs.
And then I received an email from a person, they were asking, like, I mean, with this drop-off, like, they've been going, putting a lot of twists and stuff, and bringing them down, put them in the recycled paper bags.
Yeah, I don't know, can we do paper bags for that type
Yeah,
of?
but can they drop them off?
Should be just like grass.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I told her I didn't think that would be a problem because.
You mean to bring it out to dump it?
Yeah.
To drop it off
Yeah.
to burn
Oh,
if it's in a?
no,
Right.
no paper.
Right, that's what I was
It's
thinking.
limbs only,
Yeah.
Guns only, no paper.
correct.
Yeah, if they have the bags, they'll need to contact municipal waste to ask for the special
Okay.
pickup of yard waste in the bags if they.
Okay, so if it's in the bag, they need to call for the special pickup.
Or if it's in a container, same thing. If they've been collecting it in a
Right,
plastic
but-
container or something.
They could bring the container out and dump the container though,
Right.
right, of twigs.
We'd like to keep it the larger, or, 3/4 inch or larger limbs. It would be easier to.
Well, I'm just saying, as they bring out their limbs and stuff, if they have a container of twigs and branches, they can dump it as well.
Yeah, they can take the container back.
Right, right.
Right.
So we'll set up some times, we'll get it advertised as best we can.
It'll be on Facebook, our Facebook page.
Facebook, it'll be Twitter, we'll put it on the website, we'll put it in the newsletter. And it looks like it's gonna be a ways out anyway because it continues to stay wet. So it's gonna be hard to start that fire and keep it going.
Yeah, it's a mess. We're well aware. Anybody have any other questions as it concerns the resolution?
Make a motion that we approve Bill 009.
A motion from Alderman Dickerson and a second from Alderman Levison for approval of Council Bill 009. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And Council Bill 009 become Resolution 006. And that's it for our agenda items tonight. Alderman Committee reports. Alderman Bowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to let you know that I had the privilege of being a member of Rotary to go to McEwen to a 5th grade class to read with a student last week. And that was a real special time. I think those kids are pretty special, and as much time as we in the community can invest and spend with them, I think that's a good thing to do. So I had a great time, and look forward to doing it later this month. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Bachman. Alderman Reese.
Not-
Alderman Miller.
And talking about the limbs, I wondered if there's a possibility, I know there's several groups within our town, our community, sometimes we can get football guys or Boy Scouts and stuff like that to do community service projects. I wonder if we touched base with some of those service organizers, some of those organizations, and see if when it came time where we could dump limbs, if we could get maybe people who aren't able to transport their own limbs to sign up maybe and do a pickup. And get some groups coordinated together on specific days to maybe try and get that.
I think it's great. I think it's a great idea because I mean, like in my neighborhood, I've already told most of my neighbors I've got access to a large flatbed trailer. The only requirement I had is you help me throw them on the trailer. I'll be glad to haul them because not everyone has the ability to haul. And no, I think that it would be a great idea to talk to the school.
Or do that, talk to the school and maybe put that on our Facebook page, to see if there's any groups that would want some community service hours. We'd be glad to help on those particular days.
Yeah, that way and then if they contact us, we can then obviously provide them with the schedule of the dates and maybe even coordinate a day that we know works for everybody. And no, that's a great idea. Very good idea. Thank you. All right. Anything else?
No.
Oh. Oh. Alderman Dickerson. Nothing. Alderman Byrd. Alderman Levison.
So quiet.
I was
Tomorrow.
the update.
Well, no, that wasn't what I was gonna talk about, but I did have, a lady, a friend from the community, reach out to me, and, she's really like us, and she's working on it right now, but she would like us to look into maybe doing, an outreach to some of the homeless that we have here in town. And I know she's talked to Matt too, and, I just told her we'd do whatever we could to support her, as far as that goes, because I think that our homeless community, it's gone up around here. And we don't all know their backstories, but I think that it's important to show them love and, even if it's just a warm bowl of soup once a week or something. So I'll let you know further as we find more things out, but I don't think she's wrong. I think that we should definitely be reaching out and finding out what's going on in their lives. I mean, maybe we can help direct them towards jobs or housing, and maybe they just feel lost and don't really know where to go and what to do next. And I don't know. When it's cold like this, you really start thinking about how lucky you are just to have a home and a roof over your head. So anyway, that's what we got going on and what we're kind of pondering. That's
Very
it.
good. Mr. Welch.
Next board meeting will be Tuesday, February 19th. We do have a need for a public safety committee meeting instead of a community development meeting before that one. So we'll schedule that at 6 o'clock. City offices will be closed on President's Day, which is Monday, February 18th. Outside of that, you've got an update on our report. If you have any questions, we have to answer.
Okay. Something interesting I didn't think about with the brush drop off. I've had lots of questions, comments, people. A lot of them is, electric department was in my yard trimming a tree that was, causing power outage. Talking to the tree crews. That day was those couple days were just so busy and chaotic. They don't always remember every backyard they were in, every spot in town. I mean, if it's dark outside, it could just become a blur. So I know some people got brush dropped in their yard that maybe now is for them. to deal with. I understand if you're frustrated, but again, with that type of outage, the main thing is that we get it taken care of, we get the power on. Anybody that needs help with their brush, I love Alderman Milner's idea. That's a great idea, because that would be a no-cost alternative to the city to help get some of that brush. Like I said, I volunteered to help some of my neighbors. I just think that's what a community needs to do is step up and come together. I mean, it was an act of nature. It's not anybody's fault. So hopefully we can get some warm, dry weather soon, and it dry out a little bit, and we can get these all taken care of before spring. Next week, Tuesday, is the Missouri Municipal League's Legislative Conference. Some of us will be attending that. Go find out all the wonderful things that our state government is trying to do to make our city lives a little more complicated. We already had an update a few weeks ago at the Westgate meeting. So far, not too bad. Most of what I hear is they're trying to correct errors made in the past, but it doesn't always work that way. There's some stubborn people at the state that believe they're right and they're going to stay right. So we'll see how that pans out. Last week we had our employee recognition dinner. Very good event, very good attendance. Our Department of the Year was Community Development. The Steve Rauscher Award was Rodney Jacobs. And our Employee of the Year was Faith Sherman. So congratulations to all of them. Always a great event to recognize the employees and their hard work. They really do a good job. And that is all I have for tonight.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion from Alderman Dickerson and a second from Alderman Milner. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Good night, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.